Hey friends, Axial GT here. Are you considering building a PC? Or maybe you've started and are stuck because of all the shortages? Or let's say miners and scalpers have got you down. I know of a few GPUs you can buy right now that won't break the bank. Let's do this. So last week I railed against Linus Tech Tips for his bad take on the 3080 Ti. Well, now that the 3070 Ti has dropped and the embargoes have lifted and the reviews have come out. And yes, I do not agree with Linus on this one either, but it was worded a little better. I could do a whole other video on the flaws of his review process and his recommendations, but I'm not going to do that because this is not a drama channel. But I will do a brief summary. So he starts off his 3070 Ti review talking about the 3080 Ti and how it's competitively priced.
Is that last week's 3080 Ti was also competitively priced, but only in the context of the current landscape.
So it sounds like to me, since we have a scalper issue right now, along with shortages, that it's his opinion that it's okay for Nvidia to scalp their own cards. The 3090 was your Halo product of this generation, but it's also a workstation card that you can also play games on. The 3080 Ti is your gamer's card, and I proved in my last video that every 80 and 80 Ti model since Kepler has always been $50 to $100 more. But that all changed with the 2080 Ti. That's when Nvidia started their cash grab, when Nvidia jacked up the prices. And again, none of the reviewers on YouTube ever said anything about it. But I digress. I'm beating a dead horse. But I guess kudos to him for sticking by his 3080 Ti review. And kudos to me for telling everybody that he is full of shit. But I will bring up one other point before we get on with the rest of the video. In his WAN show, he did address the former Ti pricing, and Luke added in this.
So 1080 Ti's MSRP at launch was actually $700, yes. And that was the top performance card at the time. Yep. So anyway, hold on. Let's keep
like
going.
I was saying, it's not necessarily a normality. Just because there is one that you can point at doesn't necessarily mean that it happens all the time.
So needless to say, it's easy to see that they're both full of it. But that's okay. It takes all kinds of people to make the world go around. It's just sad that they influence many millions of people. Because yes, sadly, I see Linus as a TikTok influencer nowadays. And speaking of millions of people or subscribers, don't forget to like and subscribe for future Axial GT content. It costs you nothing and really helps me out with YouTube's algorithm. And it's much appreciated. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, it's a great GPU with great NVIDIA features like DLSS, high quality hardware video encoding, and more. And $599? It's an absolute bargain for this class of GPU in the current conditions. Will the 3070 Ti still make sense when the dust settles? Honestly, my money's on not really.
Now normally that recommendation wouldn't sound too bad, except reviews on YouTube stay up forever, so anybody thinking about it a year or 2 years down the road are not going to remember the current conditions part. That's really nobody's fault, that's just how people's minds work. See, even before I made this video, I forgot to put on pants. Or did I? But anyway, you'll never know. So one of the interesting things I saw in his review of the 3070 Ti was, even if you look at his own benchmarks, the 6800 non-XT by AMD actually beat the 3070 Ti. And it's $20 cheaper on MSRP. So people who are interested in rasterization would actually probably be more inclined to buy that card. And I don't know why he didn't say anything about it except pushing Nvidia products. And here's something else to think about. In 2021, $600 only buys you an 8 GB card. Let that sink in for a minute. But that's really here nor there. This is his review and he can own it. But like I said earlier, this is not a drama channel. YouTube is full of drama. You have Linus's bad takes on being an Nvidia TikTok influencer. You have Joker Productions being
snooty. Snooty? Snotty. Snotty.
And Review Tech USA being a hypocrite. But I don't want to be one of those drama channels that has to point all this stuff out. This is a gaming and gaming hardware channel, made by a gamer for gamers. And I'll only call these channels out when they try to lead gamers astray with false claims and false narratives. So anyway, back to the topic of the video. I started looking at what a gamer could buy now to get them by until things return to normal, like MSRP prices, which, in my opinion, people should probably write off the 30 series and the 6000 cards from AMD. I do not believe those will ever get back to MSRP. We'll probably have to wait till the next launch. Shortages will ease up a little bit, but prices won't ever be normal. Just my opinion. So we need to look at something we can buy now. And I've seen Hardware Unbox's video where he recommended the RX 580. And that's sound advice if you want to spend $500 for a stopgap card. But I also know a lot of people do not want to spend $500, $400 for a stopgap card or a temporary card. Because if that be the case, even the RX 570 is a good choice. But I know a lot of people do not want to feel like they're getting hosed when buying a graphics card. So here is my pick on what somebody can buy now just to finish their build and to get things up and running. And admittedly, you're not going to set any graphical fidelity records with the card that I chose. This is just to get you up and running and to be able to play a few games while you're at it, even modern titles. Now I would recommend the AMD Radeon R9 290. Yes, it's a 4GB card, but let me explain. This card launched all the way back in 2013, and at the time, it was a beast of a card, using GDDR5, and it also has a 512-bit bus. This actually comes into play in modern titles. The card has 2560 shading units, 160 texture mapping units, and has an operating frequency of 940 MHz, with the memory running at 1250 MHz. It was made on a 28nm process, so yes, the card is really old, 2013. But it's still very capable, especially at low and medium settings at 1080p. Here are some benchmarks to sink your teeth into. Now first up we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. On medium settings, 1080p, you're looking around 41 FPS on average. On Call of Duty Warzone, with a mix of low and medium settings, at 1080p, it's around 75 average FPS. Switching over to Doom Eternal, medium settings, 1080p, 100 plus FPS. Just kind of goes to show you how well optimized this game is. Now some people enjoy Fortnite, so I figured I'd go ahead and throw this benchmark in here too. At competitive settings, you're looking around 170 to 180 FPS. Now one of the hardest benchmarks to run is Cyberpunk 2077. With all of its bugs aside, it does tax modern PCs. So a mix of medium and low settings at 1080p, you can get 40 FPS. Now some people might ask, Axial, why are you recommending such an old card? Well, that's because of price. The going rate for an R9 290 is right around $150. But sometimes you can get deals all the way down to $125 and as much as $180 to $200. But that's an easier pill to swallow since we're talking about a temporary card anyway. But there is one caveat, and that is the power requirements. Miners don't really care for this card due to its power requirements. That's why there are some available. I've seen some miners use this card, but it's kind of lost its flavor. It is recommended to have a 600 to 650 watt power supply to run this card. So be sure to check your existing power supply, or if you plan on buying a new power supply, make sure it has that kind of wattage available, because the card is very power hungry. Now if you want a little bit more performance, you can also look at the 290X that has a 4 or 8 GB models. But you're also going to be looking at $50 to $100 more, and I would say between $200 and $300, at least for the ones that I've looked at. Now given today's climate, I think the R9 290 offers great value to performance, and the added bonus is you don't feel like you're getting hosed or taking it up your backside buying one. And given that the card is so old, there might be one other thing you might have to do. If you buy a used card off eBay or Facebook Marketplace, I would go ahead and repaste the card because I'm sure it's getting pretty dried out by now. But that's it, that's my recommendation. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, I read all of them. And don't forget to like and subscribe for future Axial GT content. I really do appreciate you watching. Until next time, my friends, I am out of here. You all have a good one.